Who? What? Where? Why? When? How? Trusty Abe, Trusty Abe. A beautiful Friday morning, October the 18th, 2024. Reflecting on the great existential crisis of 2023. Of course. So, swift housekeeping. Hey, what's up, Daniel Barry? Good to see you. So, looking at some rescheduling or proper scheduling moving forward. First of all, so for programs on this channel, I'll probably have to scale it down to like a once weekly and do a different thing every week, but trying to pick the same day and time for weekly streams. Happy Friday, Halcyonic Kaiju, good to see you. So I'll be doing that. Apologies to everybody in the Path of Equanimity group. So I'm thinking that same Wednesday night time slot every week will be best for me right now. So that'll be like 8:15 p.m. Pacific on Wednesdays that I'll be doing that. And then random philosophy videos on the side, studying Seneca's philosophy right now over at Answers in Stoicism. So yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to do, work on time management and establish a little routine here. But it's probably going to be my last day with Wi-Fi, so I figured I'd pop on, say what's up, and I was torn between, I was watching Andrew Wilson's stream for a minute before this, but he was being pretty dull this morning, so decided to go with Jim Bob here. Hey, Skywork 600, good to see you. Title of the stream piqued my attention. Yeah, it's meant to do that, but no, yeah, I've really been considering a lot of things here as far as branding and, well, I've lost my upgraded StreamYard account for now, so it's all pretty minimal again. I only have a limited number of streaming hours and capabilities and things like that. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing well. Just dealing with a lot, life kind of getting thrown back at me all at once. You know, I went from having basically unlimited free time to almost no free time pretty much overnight here. So trying to manage that over the last couple of weeks has been challenging and fun. So yeah, I just have to make a realistic schedule moving forward that doesn't keep me constantly on edge. I don't know what Jim Bob's yammering on about here. Got some Molly Shannon clips playing.
It's terrible. Who's writing this? Owen Benjamin?
Bother you that Trump guy insults you all the time? Because it really bothers my friends and me.
Oh, Mary Catherine, it's very important.
Mary Catherine.
Always remember, you should never let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Peter's gonna hate. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Saturday Night Live skip. Good times. So yeah, I was looking into this Prop 33 thing, and it's still looking pretty good. There's some fear-mongering going on around it right now. Is what I was seeing here. But I feel pretty good about it, so I'm going to read a little bit more before the final day comes. So I don't know if there's anything interesting being had done over here.
Set aside partisan
Okay, this is a funny clip. I saw this. Big Tard Bear here. He's talking some stuff. Now just take a look at what shows up as a promotional item on his YouTube. Watch. Are you guys looking for it? Watch for it.
I actually have been listening to quite a bit of content about existentialism that came up in Michael Segru's lessons, because I've been listening to them, and also in the History of Western Philosophy, Bertrand Russell. And I think it's an interesting topic, but it's like purpose, right? It's pretty much. There's somebody at the door, not my door, the front door. I think it's pretty much well established that we have to create our own purpose, right? So, and in that sense, we have to be able to do something that's meaningful to us and hopefully to other people, and do so in a way that's like sustainable, right? Like consistently. So, yeah, these skills like time management, money management, that we've been working on over here. Oh, he's got the gay test up.
Man, when are these bear tards going to realize? When are they going to realize who they're dealing with here?
Ooh, look, a squirrel.
All right. So that's the clips part. Let's move over to... Actually, I think I should do the Peterson one first. Because
Jordan B. Peterson?
The long-haired little Timmy guy, he's more like a fodder. What is a gay test? I'm not sure what that is. But,
It's a fucking joke. That's what it is.
the promoted items on old Beg Bear's YouTube. Troy says, hey, Jim Bob, do you think it's ever possible to truly hold an agnostic position on anything? No. Nope. All positions are dogmatic. They're all dogmatic.
All positions are dogmatic. That's just like your opinion, man. It's a negatory. There's no dogma in the rejection of a proposition.
I'm going to see if we can predict some contradictions, because the name of this video for him is there purpose in nature? Now, I don't know how the caller does. Usually the callers don't do well, in fact. But we'll take a look here. Take a look, see.
You would agree that there's purpose in the world, obviously, right?
Unless he's back at this Planet Peterson guy.
Okay, let's see what he's got here. Let me move myself.
It has nothing to do with Jordan B. Peterson or Jesse Lee Peterson.
So the question is there purpose in nature?
And no, there are functions, but purpose is loaded with teleological claims that I don't accept.
I don't accept them. Slurpy, slurpy, lispy, lispy. No, that's actually already false. You do accept purpose teleological claims because you couldn't possibly argue evolution is a thing unless there was a teleological claim towards survival. Do you think
survival isn't a purpose? Survival is a function.
Do you think procreation is accidental? Do you think that
No, it's incidental.
an organism's existence, that its existence has a built-in mechanism for duplicating itself? Do you think that's purposeless?
Yeah, that's what fucking procreation is. It's the mechanism that is...
Is that purposeless?
It has a function. It doesn't have purpose in the teleological sense.
How could you even use the term function when
I just
you
did.
look at the function of a single organism or even a population, and you look across all of reality in the world of nature and biology, and there are shared features, shared functions driven toward shared outcomes.
It's survival. Yeah.
From his view, he's going to sip his little juice, deny purpose, but assume universality in function.
And, you know, like a lot of species, like they only survive long enough to replicate, right? Like they reproduce and then die fairly quickly. Like, and we get
now,
to see
how
the
is it you could
fruits of that labor
possibly establish universality in function without some sort of purpose? You'd have to say the universality in function across animals.
What's up,
across
John? Saw you dropped a video. I was checking that out just before I came over here. Nice to see you're producing content. Good stuff. Good stuff.
organisms across populations for something as simple as procreating. But even before that, just in evolution, random mutation itself producing complexity. He has to say all of it, the universality he appeals to in nature, that function he appeals to. He has to say it's completely, utterly random and based on mathematically improbable instances. Isn't that wild?
And then they say, like, given, you know, like this infinitely long time period to work with, that the probability goes up and up and up, right? This random occurrence might begin.
It means that teleology is like the idea that things are created for a purpose or a goal. So the reason God created, I've heard people say that the reason plants are green is because green is the is the color that is least harsh to our retinas. So God bathed the earth in green to make it more pleasant for our eyes, or something like that.
But
that is the weirdest possible example you can come up with from your view, Peterson, to try to tarnish like a teleological position in philosophy. I mean, wow. So in order to explain, from his view, his rejection of teleology, he comes up with an example, some retarded example, about the purpose of the color green as opposed to, I don't know, the purpose of your existence, the purpose of your biology, the purpose of your eyes, the purpose of digestive. I mean, how could you possibly say the digestive tract and what it does and what it doesn't do in comparison to like the heart and what it does and doesn't do, and the brain and what it does and doesn't do? How could you possibly take a position of functionality and difference in functionality, look at the universality of what an intestine is or a brain is, and say that there's no purpose of those things? So from his view, the purpose, the function of the intestines and what it does has no purpose. Isn't that wild? So
sure, it has a purpose, but not in the sense that you're talking about, like something. So it's the fact that it serves a purpose through performing a function, right, that is beneficial to the species, is the idea of evolution. That's natural selection. Like, it's advantageous. That's why the species survives. So, I mean, you could call that a purpose, but that doesn't mean that somebody did it on purpose. That doesn't necessarily follow.
Function of an intestines absorbing all the nutrients and expelling all the non-nutrients consistently, not just once, consistently, if you're lucky, consistently.
Seems like in a perfect world,
that's a function.
In a perfect world, you know, like defecation would be necessary, right? Like everything
that has
would
regular
have a perfect amount of nutrients. You just, you know, I mean, In a more perfect world, you wouldn't even have to consume anything in order to sustain yourself. You would just be perfect and complete as you are, and you never have to eat or crap or sleep. I don't know.
Singularity, but you look at it and it's purposeless. It's purposeless. It serves no purpose. Are you kidding me? How could you possibly say there's a function and no purpose? You could just ask him, is the purpose of the developmental view of the intestines, did it develop a purpose to absorb nutrients and pass through everything not that? He'd be like, no, that's just the function. Yeah, you can't separate the two, right? To say something's functional means that you could measure from point A to point B and what it does. Well, if it does something from point A to point B, it has a purpose. What is a function absent of purpose? I'm not even sure. I'm interested in seeing, actually. Like, this guy likes to do...
What is he saying? Just because the function serves a purpose, we know what that purpose is, to survive and to procreate. Like, once again, hey, Geo Sam, good to see you. Yeah, I don't know, could it be evolution? It's not totally random, though. It forces drive outcomes to some extent. Sometimes they do. I mean, when you say forces, I mean they're like forces of nature. Those certainly drive outcomes as well as people. And I don't know, non-human animals, they drive outcomes too in their own ways.
To do definitional, logical conclusions from definition.
Logical conclusions.
So let's look.
Use logic.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so do you know the first thing that comes up when I type in the word function? It says multiple definitions. Do you know what the first definition of function is? The first definition of function.
Tell us.
So I'm going to just bring it up just so you guys can see what I'm seeing here.
Just fucking read it, Jim Bob.
What do we got here? First definition of function is what, Peterson? Purpose.
Oh, fuck.
Function.
There he goes again.
The first definition, all of your AI friends, all of your AI friends, your non-personal friends, the ones you look up, the ones you chat GPT, all that stuff, that's what this is coming from.
That's very clever, yeah.
The natural purpose of something, or the duty of a person, the function of veins, is to carry blood to the heart. Purpose, synonymous with function. Now, the caller maybe...
Hey, bro, Joe. Yeah, good to see you. I've been listening to Jim Bob for a little bit here. He's got some interesting stuff to say. He's actually a pretty talented animator, as it turns out, but total fucking douche canoe.
The problem with these people is you grant too much. You can stop them where you're at and say, oh, interesting. How is there any way to define purpose that's would leave function out, or vice versa? Could you define function without assuming a purpose? I would ask him that.
So what would you consider like somebody like you would agree though that I don't know. Sorry, I'm a little confused. You don't think that there's purpose involved for like even a tree?
Hello, Jill. Anyone using precept gives the atheist fits, perhaps because it's virtually impossible to move the goalpost as they often do with evidentialists. Well, the evidence is allowed to change. Your presupposition is fixed, right? So, it seems to be a you problem.
a tree?
Trees do things. But again, purpose is loaded because it implies that there was something behind it, creating it for a future, like
No, that actually not necessarily. You can point to purpose and not know the cause or the person, the mind behind it. So he doesn't like the word purpose or teleology because he knows intentionality assumes mind and ultimately a starting point of purpose.
Well, it's not.
But function itself would have the same problem even if you removed.
Press the button. It's not necessarily fucking the word itself, but your usage of it, right?
To mind and try
That's
to argue
the problem because you want to imply intentionality.
function. You wouldn't get you out of this problem, Peterson. You'd still be in the same problem. So even just because you point to a tree and you show that all trees tend to do the same things, that the parts inside trees do the same things, that the tree itself as a living thing, it's doing something towards something in time.
It's surviving long enough to procreate. Happy Halloween. Oh, Planet Peterson. I see. Dr. Watson, I presume. Yeah, I actually think I heard of him fairly recently too. Douchkin. That's right. He's a douchkin. Fucking dick.
It's fulfilling a function. If the function is fulfilled, the purpose is fulfilled, regardless if there's an engineer behind it.
function or purpose.
And that's exactly, and that's kind of what I see though when I see these things. I see like, especially only living things, that they do have some sort of, I guess, the word would be purpose or like function that they play in.
Yep, but that's because we live
In reality, let me say.
We are living in a material world, and I am a material girl.
Live in reality.
I don't want to say this.
We live in a society.
This is because we live in a time where things have already happened. It's like, for example, trees. There are trees and there are termites. And termites, not all of them, but they eat wood. Except trees were around on this planet for many.
This guy's such an idiot. If you take a simple bacteria that crawls into...
Such an idiot. Such an idiot. Wait. When evidence for one claim is cited, the atheist moves the goalpost to now require evidence for something else. What? Well, I don't know what you mean by that, but okay. If you claim that somebody was like resurrected, say from the dead, I don't know. Take some serious evidence there.
Falls into the eye of a pig snail or caterpillar or something. Takes over its nervous system. It goes out then on a leaf and it gets eaten by a bird. The bird then digests it and then sends it back down to the ground to do the same thing. According to him, the function of a bacteria taking over the control panel of a larger organism such that it could be consumed by a bird and continue this cycle of life, as we would call it, that the cycle of life itself, if you wanted to take just that definition of it, that description, cycle of life, that all of the developmental appendages from an evolutionary view that they magically create from random mutations over time how could they not serve a purpose in being featured as a new appendage through response to environment? So if Peterson said evolution is the changes in allele frequency that are
You just said through response to changes in environment.
informed by the
That's
external environment and other pressures, whatever. Something like that. To say that statement, to accept that premise, you're already saying that the purpose of the mutation is a response to external stimuli called the environment.
yeah, that's what's stated in the theory, sir.
You couldn't even say pressures unless there was a purpose to responding to pressures. Why did this thing happen? Why did the snake, from your evolutionary view, develop? There was based on Peterson's view. Think how ridiculous this is. Inside,
Think of how ridiculous these questions are. Like, that's literally built into the theory. That's what natural selection is talking about. Like, oh, I don't know, explain it.
the evolutionary paradigm, there was no purpose in the snake developing venom that paralyzes and sometimes
Survival.
liquefies the organs it's about to digest. There's no purpose to that.
Many millions of years before there were termites. So the idea that the trees were put there for the termites makes less sense than
Who the hell would say the trees were put there for the termites? What kind of straw man bullshit is this? You lisping queen? What kind of bullshit is this?
I've been missing the side chat here. Bob is oblivious to his own idiocy. Yep, Jill's projecting again. Doesn't know what hearsay actually is. We'll have a talk about hearsay next time so I can show everyone Geo uses words he doesn't understand. Of course, I'll be muted when the definition is being read aloud. Demons hate truth. John claims to be an eyewitness testimony and not hearsay. The Gospel of John claims to be written by the disciple whom Jesus loved and is an account of events that the author witnessed. Okay, well, it's not necessarily reliable, is it? Could have just made it up. It's one thing to have a bias or hatred and then conclude it's hearsay. That silly idea cannot be derived from the text. Now watch the goalpost move. Yeah, I don't know. The text claims to be written by eyewitness, whether you believe the claim or not. Such is moot. It's just a matter of whether or not you believe the credibility of the witness.
He did a fast forward, and they were like, and they developed the first lung in response to needing oxygen. It's like, yeah. So they were alive enough to develop a lung that they needed to process the oxygen that they're capable of processing in order to develop the lung. Is that what it is? But Peterson's view is that organisms, under his evolutionary narrative, developed lungs to process, not to process oxygen. The organism developed a function to process oxygen, not to process oxygen. That's what he has to say. So, Peterson, you're telling me that from your evolutionary view, an organism that was incapable of processing then poisonous oxygen, over time, through random mutation, developed a thing called the lung to effectively not process the oxygen.
Yes. So there was like a simpler organism, right, that evolved into a more complex organism. And so at some point in its evolution, it becomes necessary to process the oxygen. But the anaerobic part still exists, right? It's like layers on layers.
Thing called a lung that, from your view, wasn't developed to process anything. It just was lucky that there was oxygen, that it somehow perfectly does its function. Dude. While being poisoned. Carpenter, yeah. Justin Henley, $2. 3,000 million. It was 4,000 million years ago. 4,000 million years ago.
To them. So that oxygen had absolutely no purpose. Now it was like it combined with iron to form iron oxide, which sank into the ocean floors. And today, most of the iron we mine in order to create buildings and things like that is from what are called banded iron formations. So that was the whole point of it billions of years ago. No, we're just looking at things after the fact.
No. This guy is such a bad faith little lisping queen. Look at his face. Look at that stupid face. Look, Peterson, we're not talking about how humans can engineer from natural resources and say the purpose of these things were obviously for us. Forget that. Forget that. He wants to keep it on the theistic view. He wants to make it absurd. He wants to say, oh, the things that we use, because we use them, therefore it was their purpose. Because we figured out how to use oils here, because cars. No, that's not what we're saying. You little snake.
Act and saying that's why it happened.
Can you show me an example then of like something that is living today? Because even in a theory of evolution, it doesn't mean that, like when we're saying that purpose can change, do you have an example of anything that's living that doesn't serve a purpose, even in modern 2024?
So again, I reject the idea that, or the concept that it's purposeful. Things have functions.
Caller should ask, can you point to a function inside a biological creature? Right?
Well, each thing exists, like as far as living organisms, to perpetuate themselves. Right? The fact that they also like intermingle in such a way that they serve each other, right? It's like a more complex product of the system, right? But it doesn't, each thing individually exists to perpetuate its own genes.
Peterson saying, yeah, things have function, but there's no purpose to the function. Okay? You're going to say that the function of a large intestine, small intestine, in its processing capabilities, what it does and what it doesn't inside the human body, let's take human body. You're saying the function of that serves no purpose.
And they have relationships, but that doesn't imply that it was created on purpose, that there was some sort of intelligent.
He keeps conflating. That's a secondary argument that can be explored. Maybe he knows the consequence of purpose would actually go back to teleology, would go back to intent. Intent would go back to mind, and intent, from a human perspective, would precede our ability to discern the intent and the purpose. We would be discerning purpose, not creating it. Maybe Peterson does know in his lonely hours after he streams that if he grants teleology, he ultimately is trapped in trying to justify teleology, which he knows he can't. So he rejects teleology, and just says function, even though you could easily draw out a contradiction or an incoherency in that position in regards to defending evolution, which he does wholesale. The caller unfortunately doesn't have the logical trees mapped out in his head
The logical
to
tree.
go, oh shit, this is perfect. Can't wait.
Design or intervention or plan going on.
See how much he doesn't like that? Like it's almost defeating to his spirit to even say what that is. Listen.
Plan going on. And design or intervention or plan going on.
A bit more. They have older skulls, I guess, for prior forms, but they couldn't possibly find a prior protoform of, say, a heart, being tissue.
Mhm.
So empirically it fails, right?
Yes. Yep. Not only the heart itself, some proto to the heart, but even the heart as we know it, developing, what do you call it? The dual ventricles or whatever. That's something we brought up, me and Posh, against JF Yippee, whose wife is still missing, I believe, and Richard Spencer. Is that they go, oh yeah, and then it developed more stuff, and you go, well, what? That's interesting. You start from the heart, presuppose its development, and then you don't have a concept of a pre-developed heart that's essentially doing something very special, not yet doing the very, very special thing it's doing. It's subjective connected dots. That's right.
Brojo asks, what makes a credible witness? Well, I mean, there's different things that factor in there. I think, like the question is like, what makes a credible witness contemporaneously might differ from what makes a credible witness in the historical sense, right? So, are there other contemporaneous like authors and people who verify those accounts or whatever? Yeah, and the more fantastical the claim, I think the more corroboration you would need.
Its function, in this case, the function of an intestine and what it does in relation to processing foods from the stomach and so forth. The whole process of the stomach, the whole digestion system, let's say, as one thing. Each of those items have a function. Now, in relation to the other items, they have a purpose. How could you say the function of the intestine is XYZ, biologically speaking, and say it doesn't have a purpose? I mean, it's just seriously the weakest semantic dodge. The weakest semantic dodge.
The sunfish. Yeah, the sunfish is the most.
But like even like on like stuff like that, which is funny, obviously. Like they still like in a way could be a purpose of like food for another animal. There's many. I know you understand what I'm saying. I'm just having a hard time trying to wrap my mind around like the concept that though I observe through observation purpose all around me, and that we're just changing that word in narrative to something like function.
Yeah, dude, trap him with the function, that he can't get away with function. Ask him to bring up the first definition of function. That would have been so humiliating to this guy. Hey, Peterson, bring up the first definition of function.
Other than purpose in itself. Because I believe what I was like... I'm sure you see the end goal of where I'm going with in my like thought experiment.
Yeah, so I think this one's pretty easy. Hey, Silverwolf, good to see you. Gaza has gone on a diet. That's one way of putting it. Gaza is cutting back on their life expectancy. Yeah. Credible witness doesn't come for the writings of the book. you get 76, then you can go on to 100 to 80 years old. Okay. Any year lived above 75 or bonus years. True that. For me, any years beyond 35. So we're already there. So yeah, Jim Bob's thing, you know, we've already stated it's kind of circular, but the purpose of each thing, right, is the function it serves to perpetuate the thing itself, and by virtue, all these things in cooperation, all these different organisms, right, they function to serve each other as well. This credibility begins with having verifiable person, witness. Credibility is another issue. Secondly, many historians argue all of the Bible, including John, was written before 70 AD. Come up with hard facts to refute the eyewitness claim, not innuendo. It shouldn't be this difficult for you. If, in fact, this is merely hearsay. Well, I don't know. The mere fact that there is not a refutation of it doesn't make it so. Doesn't mean that it's true.
Expansion of the universe into very local.
Oh shit, it's spiraling.
Complex, high-performing systems, high precision.
Well, I kind of know what he's saying. He's saying
systems that work together from an expansion.
all right. Unrelated expanding.
That would otherwise include just unrelated expanding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a decent description.
Particular items in
Alright.
space. Chunks of rock.
Oh, we're flooding. But we've got the writings of whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Anybody can just write a book and say anything. L. Ron Hubbard wrote books, you know. Jill, help us out. No, we have vote. Like that. Passages written in a book that make claims of witnesses can't produce first-hand witnesses. Alright, I'm gonna get out. Oh shit. See y'all next time.